In this video, we'll be going over the while loop in the C# video tutorials. So the while loop causes a statement or set of statements to repeat as long as a Boolean expression is true. So let's just note that down here. So the while loop causes a statement or set of statements to repeat as long as a Boolean expression is true. So while the condition is true, the set of the statements will continue to loop, which means it'll just continue to execute over and over again. So we'll talk about that coming up in an example. So the while loop gets its name from the way it works. While a Boolean expression is true, then do some task. So the loop has two parts, a Boolean expression that is tested for a true or false value, and so let's just note down the two parts. So a Boolean expression that is tested for a true or false value, and to a statement or set of statements that is repeated as long as the Boolean expression is true. So basically let's just do an example. Well, first let's talk about the general notation. So we have just say notation. So it's while. We call the keyword while. And we have here a Boolean expression in the parameters. So while Boolean expression. We'll open a block. Then in the block we'll have statement. So you have one statement, another statement as an example, and then you can just have another statement and so on. So it can continue like that. So hopefully you guys can see that, but we have a while loop here. This is the Boolean condition. So let's just say, what's an example? Let's just say, you could say here like while val is greater than 2. Then if val is greater than 2, that would mean that this condition is true. Therefore, it would enter the block of statements. Enter the first block here. It would be true, so it would enter the block. If it was false, it would skip the block from this bracket to that bracket. But since it's true, it's going to proceed into the loop and then execute statement by statement until the execution is complete, and then it'll exit the square brackets. Just some more notes here. So while, so pretty much, sorry, so the first line is called the while clause. So the while clause begins with the word while, obviously. So so followed by a Boolean expression that is enclosed in parentheses. So we just talked about that here. So beginning on the next line is a set of statements enclosed in curly brackets. The block of statements is known as the body of the loop, so this is known as the body of the loop right there. So when the while loop executes, the Boolean expression is tested. So we already talked about this. But basically, if the Boolean expression is true, the statements that appear in the body of the loop are executed. So, actually, I think I might have messed that up here. So let me just go over that so I don't confuse anyone. So it's going to test this condition here. When I meant here, I should have told you guys that it comes back up here. But basically, so what's going to happen here is it's going to test the condition once again. So let's just say while val is greater than 2, so let's just say val points to 3. Therefore, val is greater than 2. So that means this condition is true. Then it'll enter the loop, execute that statement, that statement, that statement. It'll come to this curly bracket, and then it'll actually just loop back up here to the condition. So it'll go like this, back up here like that. Automatically, then it'll come here and check the condition again to see if the value of val is still greater than 2. If it's true, it'll continue to execute basically until infinity, while the value of val is still greater than 2. If for any reason val becomes less than 2, then it'll exit the loop. So hopefully that clears up any confusion. So if the Boolean expression is false, then the loop ends and the program resumes execution at the statement immediately following the loop. So after that, if it's false or the loop ends, then it'll proceed to the next line of code. So we say that the statements in the body of the loop are conditionally executed because they are executed only under the condition that the Boolean expression is true. So if you're writing a while loop that has only one statement in its body, you do not have to enclose the statement inside curly braces. So we talked about this before. So if we have pretty much just, if you just have one statement like this, so I can just take these brackets out. So let's just say we have one statement like that. Then you can just, you don't even have to indent, but you can. It's not Python, so you don't have to indent, but you could just have a statement like this, while Boolean expression. Then just have your only loop statement right here, and that would just continue to execute while the condition is true. So we say, actually sorry, where were we at? So while a while loop, or when a while loop written in this format executes, the Boolean expression is tested. If it is true, the one statement that appears on the next line is executed, and then the loop starts over. If the Boolean expression is false, however, the loop ends. So Microsoft Docs, they recommend using the brackets either way. You can also indent. So let's just do a code example then. So let's assume we have a button called Go button. So let's just have an example here. So let's just say assume a button named Go button, or just whatever. Sorry, not Go button. OK button, let's just go with OK button. So assume a button named OK button. So at runtime, when you click the OK button, control the message box. So a message box will appear. So when you click the OK button to close the message box, another message box is displayed. So this will continue to happen 5 times. So the reason why is, I'll show you why. So if we have, let's say we have an event handler here, so let's just say we have, so let's call this example 1, I guess. So let's say we have an event handler private void OK button takes parameter, OK button underscore click. We'll say that it takes parameter object sender comma event args e. So let's just have a local variable here. We'll say int count points to 1. Actually, sorry, we could just have, well, we could count it, we could just say val is fine. So int val points to 1. So while val is less than or equal to 5, I'll open a block here, and then we'll say message box dot show. So we'll call a dialog box to appear, and we'll say, we'll just print a string. And then we'll remember to increment the val by 1. So we'll say val points to val plus 1. So nothing too hard, so we just have our event handler here. So remember, an event handler listens for an event to occur. So once the event occurs, it responds to the event. So in this case, the event is a click of a button. So when the OK button is clicked, it's going to create a local variable called val, which is going to point to 1. And it's going to say while val is less than or equal to 5, sorry. It'll enter the loop here. It'll show a message box. A dialog box will appear, and it'll say a string hi. And then our val will increment itself by 1. And then basically, when you click the button every time, it'll appear 5 times. After 5 times, it won't appear anymore because count has reached 5. So hopefully that makes sense. So I think that's pretty much it. We have, let's see actually what else we have. We have a bit more to discuss here. So basically the while loop is a pre-test loop. So that's kind of, because there's 3 different kind of loops in C#. So they have the while loop, the for loop, and the do while loop. So I believe the while and the for loop are pre-test loops, so I'll just note that here. So the while loop is a pre-test loop. So that means that it tests its condition before the loop is executed, or performs an iteration. Because the test is done at the beginning of the loop, I usually have to perform some steps prior to the loop to make sure that the loop executes at least once. So in our example here, we had basically int val points to 1. So we had to make sure that it was less than or equal to 5. So if it was set to 6 initially, it wouldn't have entered the body of the loop, obviously. So hopefully that makes sense. So obviously, the loop would never iterate if the value was, in our case, if the value was greater than, less than, what do we say? If it was greater than 6, then, greater than 5, then it would never execute. So the next part is counter variables. So we had a variable named count initialized to the value of 1, so we basically already talked about it. So every time the loop, so once the loop executes, at the end it increments itself by 1. So the variable, not count, well, we called it val, so val is called a counter variable, which means that it is regularly incremented in each loop iteration. So it keeps count of the number of iterations. So that's pretty much it. That'll conclude the notes on the while loop. We'll do a lab in the next video. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.